So, before I get into what happened, let me just introduce myself. I'm an artist. I'm not exactly very well known or anything, but I think I'm doing decently for myself. I'm 32 years old and have been divorced for the past 2 years. When I was 26, I started dating one of my friends from high school. After we reconnected at high school reunion, after dating for a few years, we got married. But unfortunately, things started going downhill about a year into our marriage because I wanted kids and he did not. We had had a discussion before, and he told me that he looked forward to starting a family, but every time I would walk about it, he would tell me that he's not ready for it. And I was ready to give it time, but instead, I found that he was cheating on me. I had already been suspicious of him for a couple of months, so I started following him and I had become very paranoid, so it was bound to end in a confrontation at some point. I found him out, and that was the end of our relationship because he was having an affair with his secretary, and I couldn't be with him anymore. I decided to leave that very week because he had told me that I was the one responsible for him having an affair. When I had confronted him, he had said that I was the one pushing him to have kids and he was not ready, and that's why he got scared, and somehow him choosing to cheat on me was my fault. Anyway, he did not want to leave the house, and it was fair enough because I was the one who had moved into that house. It had been purchased by his parents, so I didn't want to stake any claims on it either. The only problem was where I was going to keep my artwork because even though I did have a studio that I rented with a couple of other artists, I did have a significant amount of unfinished work that I kept at home as well, in a room dedicated to me. It was a pretty big house, and at that point in time, we were not on good terms at all. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't have kept my work with him in that house because I wouldn't be able to trust him. So I literally had to request my parents to let me store my work with them in their house. But they flat out refused. And why was that? It was only because I had refused to follow their advice. And I had decided not to give my husband a second chance. All I had wanted was for them to help me store the artwork at their place for a couple of days until I was able to find a place for myself, and then I would be out of their hair altogether. But they refused and told me that I had made this choice for myself, and I was going to have to deal with the consequences, and they didn't want anything to do with me because I had ruined my life, so this was all on me now. And honestly, I can't say I was surprised at their take because I have never been a favorite with them. I was always a disappointment to them because, first of all, they had hoped for a son as their second child, but then I was born a daughter. They already had one. They didn't like me very much right from the beginning. They never even bothered to hide it, and when we would fight, they made it very clear that I was a burden on them. As soon as I turned 18, I decided to move out of my house, and they didn't even try to stop me or anything. It was hard, but I somehow put myself through college, and that was when they decided to step in and help me out. They told me that they didn't want me to struggle too much, that they were sorry for everything, so I allowed them to help me get a degree. I have a degree in literature, but my passion has always been art, painting, to be more specific. I tried to work in literature for a couple of years, but then I decided this was not what I wanted to do with my life, and I decided to become an artist, and it was hard in the beginning. But I knew I had to grit my teeth and get through it. I guess I would have found it a little easier to deal with all of that if my parents had been a little supportive. But the thought of having a daughter who was in a career like art, which was so unstable and flighty, they didn't like that. They kept trying to convince me to give up on that and go back to publishing, do something with my degree and have a respectable life. But I had already made up my mind, and that's when I realized why exactly they had paid for me to go to college. It was so that they would be able to hold that over my head for the rest of my life, because they kept reminding me that they had paid for me to go to college, and it was so that I would be able to lead a stable life, not so that I could let go of a perfectly respectable, stable career and go into something like becoming a painter, which was just ridiculous. But then my sister decided to get married and quit working altogether. And even though she's been the golden child all along, my parents were very disappointed with her. So for a couple of months, we were good because they were more upset with my sister for giving up on her career. In the end, though, as I always knew, she was able to win them over. But after that, they didn't bother me much regarding my career choices because I think they had given up on both of us, especially in this regard. Anyway, they had always liked my ex-husband, though, because he came from a rich family and they believed that even if I failed in my career, he would always be there as a safety net for me, especially financially. And I guess that was a major reason why I worked so hard so that I knew I wouldn't have to rely on my husband. However, all of that changed when he decided to cheat on me, and I knew immediately I was going to get my revenge because no matter what was going on with us, no matter how much we fought, I was always willing to be with him because I really loved him. And then he cheated on me, tried to blame it on me, and that was the final straw for me. I decided that I was going to get the alimony that I deserve, even though in usual circumstances, if we were getting divorced just because we were incompatible or anything, I knew that I wouldn't ask for it. But the situation was different. He had done me wrong, so I was going to go back with him, and that's why I fought tooth and nail for a very long time. But eventually, I was able to get what I deserve, thanks to my lawyer. I did end up investing a lot of money in the whole divorce situation, but I guess my payout was much better. So yeah, I walked away with a hefty alimony, and I think that was better than cheating on him and hurting him emotionally or anything. I hit him where it actually hurts, financially. So I'm pretty satisfied with myself, and I think I did well. But anyway, I got my payout about a year ago, because the divorce went on pretty long and I've been very careful to invest it in the right places, and because I know I don't have anybody else that I can count on, since my family doesn't speak to me anymore. They haven't spoken to me since the divorce. And even though my sister and I never had any personal issues, although I did resent her a little bit because she was always the golden child for my parents. I never had any fights or anything with her. But even she stopped speaking to me after my parents did. But anyway, I did not let that bother me too much. I went on with my life, and I think I'm in a good place now. Financially, I'm comfortable. Emotionally, I'm trying to cope with the situation because even though it's been quite a while, I still do find myself missing my ex-husband, and I've had a very difficult time bringing myself to trust anybody. So for now, I'm not dating anybody, but maybe in the future I'll be able to do so. In the meantime, I'm in therapy because obviously I don't really have any support from my family, and I do have my friends, and they have been very kind. One of them even let me store my artwork at their home eventually because my parents were not ready to help me out. So that's how nice they've been about this whole thing. But at the end of the day, they have their own family and their own lives, and I can't expect them to constantly be there for me. And I respect that as well. So yeah, things have been okay, but they definitely could have been better, and I'm trying to deal with it. And now, in the middle of all this, all of a sudden my parents decided to reach out to me a couple of days back, and I found it very fishy from the beginning itself. I knew there must be some reason why they were reaching out to me and being so nice, because they had sent me an email claiming that they really missed me, that they wanted to talk to me, they wanted to sort things out, and I just found it very weird because they haven't spoken to me. They couldn't care less whether I live or not, but all of a sudden, after 2 years, they want to talk to me? Yeah, there was definitely something going on. I was not buying this whole act that they missed me or whatever. So I told them straight up that if they needed something, then the answer's going to be no. But if they really wanted to talk to me and sort things out, then they are welcome to call me. And I provided them with my phone number. I did not give them my address because I was not ready to see them in person. And I knew that it would be a huge problem if I gave them my address and they decided to misuse it. Even the phone number that I provided them was the one that I have on my spare phone, so they couldn't bother me too much. Anyway, they did call me, and the first thing they said was that they were a little disappointed that I had chosen to pretend like they couldn't miss me just for the sake of it. And they actually had to want something from me to want to talk to me. I admit I felt a bit guilty, but I was very polite and nice to them for the rest of the conversation. And then they started telling me that they really wanted to discuss something with me that was going on in the family, and that's why they needed to come and see me. But I could sense something was off. So I made up a bunch of excuses as to why they couldn't come and see me and why they had to tell me whatever it was going on the phone itself. They were not ready to do it, but after a few minutes of convincing, they let the cat out of the bag and told me that my sister was getting a divorce, and unfortunately, because she had stopped working, and she also put in a lot of her savings into shopping, she didn't have much left. So they were helping her out with the cost of the lawyer, but until then, she needed a way to get back on her feet, and so they wanted me to help her out because she wanted to move out. But she had nowhere else to go, and also because she needed a helping hand financially, just for a bit. And instantly, I was like, no. Because these people have not spoken to me for over a year, and that includes my sister, even though she never had anything to do with all these opinions that my parents had about my divorce. She didn't even say anything about it, and yet simply because of my parents, she also decided that she was going to cut me out of her life, and I'm not complaining. She and I were never that close. We never had any problems, but we were not very close either. But that's the thing, isn't it? We were just on neutral ground, but right now, if she needs help, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be the one to provide it, because when I needed it, she was never there for me. Oh, and on top of that, the reason that she's getting a divorce is because she's the one who cheated. Apparently she was getting really bored at home, so she decided to have an affair with her neighbor. I'm not going to stand for that. I don't know how her husband is as a person. I've had very limited interaction with him, but he seems to be polite, and of course I know for a fact that looks can be deceiving. But from what it seemed, they loved each other, or at least that's what I thought. Anyway, she could have done the decent thing, and she could have decided to get a divorce if she was not happy in that marriage, but she decided to go out of her way and cheat on him. And I just can't even imagine why my parents would suppose that I was going to help her out in a situation like this. Why would they even tell me about that? It's just stupid. And I told them to their face that I was not going to help, because I've been through a lot. I don't need this kind of drama in my life. And when I said that, they instantly started accusing me of being selfish and told me that I don't care for my family. And now I'm wondering, am I the bad guy here? AITA for not wanting to help my sister during her divorce? Update 1. Hey everybody, thank you so much to everybody who commented on my post and who had helpful things to say. It really means a lot to me, especially right now because I'm going through a lot of trouble in my own head. I don't understand what to do, or at least I didn't understand what I should do up until a couple of hours ago. But I have made up my mind now. I don't want to help my sister, and I don't want anything to do with my family, especially because I have made it very clear that they don't want anything to do with me unless they're sure that they stand to gain something from it. So if that's the case, I don't think I'm making a huge mistake by refusing to have anything to do with them, because I think in the past 2 years, I've done well enough for myself without their company. I think I'll be able to continue doing so for the better as well. As for my sister, the only thing I can give her is my sympathy, even if that's very limited, because she's the one who actually cheated. But yes, as I was saying, the bottom line is that I'm not going to be helping anybody because I don't think that they deserve it. I don't think I owe it to them or anything. I'm not going to stand for it. The only reason I had been in a dilemma is because I like to think of myself as a good person. I like to think of myself as a kind person. And a good, kind person would help somebody who needed it. But I think my sister neither needs it nor does she deserve it. And I'm not naive enough to pretend otherwise anymore. So yeah, whatever. I'm done with this whole thing and I've blocked all of them. Even my sister, for good measure. So she's not able to contact me, even though she hasn't done so far either. It's a sad thing. For a couple of hours or maybe even days, I had actually allowed myself to believe that maybe my parents had turned over a new leaf and genuinely wanted to reconcile with me and improve our situation. But clearly, that's not the case. And that's never going to be the case. And I'm not going to be fooled anymore. I won't say that I find all of this is easy. I definitely don't. But it is what it is, and I'm not going to force it to be anything else. I have accepted my situation. I have accepted how my parents are. Can't do anything about it. Update 2. Okay, so it's been about a week since my previous update, and today, surprisingly of all people, my sister was the one to show up at my workplace. I didn't even know she knew where I worked. But it definitely was a bit of a shock to see her when I came down into the lobby. The receptionist had only told me that somebody from my family had come to visit me, and even that in itself was a surprise, but I didn't have to sit and ask questions. I was swamped with work today. So I just decided to go down and see what it was about, and I was actually expecting my parents. And with them, it's always better to deal with it as quickly as possible. So I was planning on going down, telling them that I couldn't talk here, giving them a piece of my mind for even daring to show up here. But then I saw my sister and I was just lost. I didn't know what to do. Even she looked pretty confused, and for the first couple of seconds, it was quite awkward. But then I decided that we had to talk in private, so I told her to wait until lunch and then we could talk. Luckily, I was going to take my lunch break just a few minutes later. I had already been planning on it, so I asked her to wait for me in the restaurant outside, and she went. When I showed up, I think 10 minutes later, it was clear that she had been crying because her eyes were all swollen and red. The second I showed up, I was close enough for her to speak to me. She started thanking me for not turning her away without even speaking to her, because apparently that's what she had been expecting. She told me that she was deeply ashamed of herself, that she didn't deserve any of my kindness and empathy, and she already knew that. But even then, she didn't know who else to turn to because all of this was very personal and she didn't want to share this with a few friends that she has, because as it is, she's not very close with them. And this is not something that she would like to share with people outside the family. And our parents have apparently been quite hard on her. For the first time, they're actually forcing her to face the consequences of her actions. They're very upset with her, apparently for quitting her job and then being foolish enough to cheat on her husband. But apparently she has an excuse for that. She told me her husband, especially for the past couple of years, has basically been married to his work, doesn't have time for anything else, and that includes her. I don't really think that's an excuse. I don't think that's fair to him, because the reason he was married to his work was because she was relying on him. And she has a pretty luxurious lifestyle, so I don't think it makes sense. But anyway, what's done is done. She told me the reason she ended up cheating was because he was never affectionate. He hardly even spoke to her in the past couple of months, and she was just very lonely. And look, I'm not saying that it's totally her fault, and people are not infallible. People do end up cheating, but it's hard to sympathize with a cheater in every situation. And I made that very clear to her. that if she was expecting me to feel bad for her or anything, then she was coming to the wrong place, because somebody who has been cheated on, I don't have any sympathy for her. And she told me that she didn't expect me to sympathize. The only thing she wanted was for me to help her out a little. Not because she deserved it, but because she believed I was going to be good and kind enough to do so. She told me that it was very obvious she couldn't stay with her husband anymore. They were going through a divorce, and he had made it very clear that there was no place for her in his home anymore. And I mean, it's valid enough. As for my parents, she's been staying with them, but she really can't do it anymore because apparently they've been taunting her all day long. They have been very horrible to be around, and even though she regrets everything, it's tough to be reminded of everything that she has screwed up on constantly. She can't even get through one meal without having them make nasty remarks about her. And she told me that she can't do it anymore, and that's why she desperately needs me to help her out. Honestly, it was hard for me not to feel bad, especially because she started crying halfway through her story. I didn't know what to do. I tried to comfort her, but I also had to tell her very firmly that even if I wanted to, I couldn't help her out right away, because I needed to think about these things. I don't know how long her divorce is going to take, and I can't let her stay with me indefinitely because I really value my independence, and I would like for her to be the same way and find work. Find a way to support herself and not rely on me or anybody else. She told me that she's already been applying to jobs, and it's been a little tough because she's not been in the job market for so long. But she told me that she's going to really make it work somehow. She's going to find a job, and she just needs to be with me. And she just needs my support for a couple of weeks. In the end, I just told her that I needed some time to think about it, and that's how we parted. She couldn't stop thanking me. She kept telling me that she was really grateful that I had even spoken to her, and that she would really hope I would help her out here, and that she would never forget it if I did. It's a bit of a tough spot to be in, if I'm being honest, but let's see what happens. I haven't really thought about it yet. I don't know what I'm going to do, but like I said, I need time to think about it, and once I think about it, I'll let you guys know, and I'll let her know as well. Update 3. Okay, so after giving it a lot of thought, I have decided I'm going to help my sister out, but not in the way that she expected it. She wanted me to let her move in with me or whatever, but I've decided that's not what I want. Like, I really value independence. I like staying on my own. I don't want my sister staying with me because it's going to complicate things, and quite frankly, I don't think I should have to give anything up. We don't have that kind of relationship, and I think it's very important for me to draw my boundaries and make it very clear that they are not to be overstepped. Anyway, one of my friends has just opened a new outlet of her bakery, and she's been looking for a manager. So I recommended my sister because she does have a business degree. It pays enough. But the biggest advantage is that for a couple of days, until she's able to find an apartment, my friend has agreed to let her stay in the apartment above the bakery itself, which she also owns. And she had been thinking about letting the manager rent it, but for now she's agreed to let my sister stay there for free. It's a big deal. And I've spoken to my sister about it, and she was happy enough with the arrangement and told me that she's going to take a little while to think it all over, and then she's going to let me know. I think that's fair enough, and to be honest, it's a much better reaction than what I was actually expecting, because I thought she was going to behave like my parents. She's going to act entitled and bratty, but instead, she was more than grateful, and she couldn't stop thanking me. So I guess that's fair enough. I did what I wanted to without compromising my own morals and ethics and boundaries or whatever. I think that's good enough for me. As for my parents, we are still not on speaking terms, and I know for a fact that my parents know that I have helped my sister, since she has told them that she has asked me for help, and apparently even that led to a lot of drama between them, and that's why she's more than desperate to get out of the house now, because things are apparently very negative. But anyway, that's what's going on, and I hope things improve soon. Update 4. So it's been 3 months since my previous update, and things with my sister are okay. She's still living in the same apartment above her workplace, except that she's paying rent now. It has been for the past month, so that's a big change. And she's the one who said she doesn't want to live there for free anymore, and I think it's nice of her. She and I do talk, and she talks to our parents as well. But my parents and I don't speak to each other, and we are completely fine with that arrangement. My life is going pretty well. I'm happy with my situation, and I'm happy that I was able to help my sister, and that we are working on our relationship. I wouldn't say that we are the closest. We are definitely not. But I guess I can say that we are closer than we used to be. She and I get along well now. We try to talk to each other at least once every 2 weeks, and we get together for dinner every 3 weeks. We make a point to do so because, regardless of the messed up relationships we have with our parents, both of us have agreed we don't want to have that kind of relationship with each other anymore. And we really want to be in each other's lives. So we are actively trying to make things better, and it's going well. And I appreciate that. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.